Hey guys, it's Chris Mincolla with the Mincolla Group over at West USA Realty, and I'm doing our housing weekly market update. And I have some incredible news for you. I almost think we need some Alleluia music in the background here. Let me see. I might have it. Give me 1 second here. This is too good. I've got to make you wait a second. Okay, this was just too good. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not what I want. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Give me 1 second. This is how good this is. Okay. I sorry. I just get excited about these things. And what is the exciting news? This is the exciting news. Okay. Uh Jerome Powell, he is gone. He is gone. Let's I guess I should share my screen with you first here. Let me do that first. Okay. Now, wait. Okay. Sorry. I just get excited about these things. And so today was his last day. Thank the Lord. We don't have to have a lot of crazy stuff happening at the Fed, and the transitory inflation that wasn't transitory that we're still dealing with today. But yeah, he's gone. So we have a new Fed chair who was confirmed by the Senate, um, and he will have his first meeting 16th and 17th of June. Okay, that's their first meeting. Their last meeting for the Fed that they had was at the very end of April, so the next meeting won't be until June 16th. June 17th, we'll hear him speak. Kevin Warsh. Now, a lot of people will, of course, the doom and gloomers and the people who want to rain on the parade, of course, are going to say, Chris, but he doesn't set rates all by himself. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. But let me explain something to you really quick. There'll be seven Fed governors that always vote. Okay. And then you have the Fed chairman who will speak. And 65 to 75% of the way the markets react, the bond market reacts, the 10-year treasury reacts, 65 to 70% in a normal market. Right now, we had the whole Iran thing. That once that is settled, which if you've been really paying attention and understand what's been going on, you had a shakeup with OPEC, which was good. You've got people coming to the U.S. to get oil. That's good. President Trump was just in China, and China said they're going to be buying not only Boeing 200 Boeing airplanes from us, but they're going to be buying uh, oil from us. Okay. Now, whether or not that comes out to be doesn't really matter because we don't get oil from there, but because we're tied in with the global markets and they the system and the whole Brent Woods thing, it kind of screwed us that way. We're tied in with all this, but it needed to be done for the grown adults in the room who actually understand that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. They just, well, I'm not going to get into all that, but they just cannot. But it's about the oil, Chris. Well, yeah, it's about the oil either way because we're tied in with the global markets. So by getting control of that and eventually having either a deal or possibly a different leadership there that makes more sense eventually, whatever the case may be, uh, for them not to have enriching uranium and all that. which would be a total nightmare for the entire planet, as we can see, and as has been proven with this little conflict that's been going on just for what, about 70 days now, which should be over soon. My prediction is this: the stage is set. President Trump, he took over took care of the whole Maduro Venezuela thing. That cut off China from there. Uh, Cuba was cut off. Now we're basically, it's going to be like, okay, yeah, take us over as far as Cuba's concerned. Now we're making deals with China. Again, don't trust them as far as I could throw them, all that, but kind of got a lot of leverage over them now that we didn't have by taking over the Straits of Hormuz. And although they may have been playing little games here and there, like they always do and always will, the fact still remains we have leverage over them because they were getting their, a good 20% at least of their oil from that region. And then another good percentage from Venezuela. That's not happening anymore. And it's all part of the hemispheric defense and breaking up that whole road and belt initiative that China has with the way they kind of are spreading their influence and all that. That's all been shut down now. So we've got this leverage over them. And, the idea that China did not really, in a big way, any big way, back the Iranians and now making deals with the US because, hey, they want to make money and they want their oil because they don't have their own oil. It is what it is. So it's a temporary thing. Once this whole thing is lifted, now with China making deals with President Trump with the whole thing and agreeing with him on a lot of this, you're going to see everything's going to drop. You're going to see you got a new Fed chair, and 65 to 75% of the messaging, just the messaging. This is why Powell was so horrible with the whole transitory thing. There was no guidance, no real adult guidance there. The whole transitory thing, we don't know what tariffs are going to do. Worst case scenario, your tariff is going to give you a one-time increase in some of your goods. At the very worst, that is not inflation. Inflation is printing too many dollars that then chase too few goods. That's inflation, not a one-time price adjustment. Okay, it's just not it. And offsetting the inflation for us is what the tariffs do long term. And it also relieves some of the tax burden, especially when you cut all the government waste they've done with the employees now, where we basically have the same number of employees that we had in the government since the 50s or 60s now. And you start cutting out all this fraud that's been going on with Medicare and all the billions of dollars there. When you take all that fraud into consideration that's getting shut down, you're talking $1 trillion. You're talking about balancing budgets. You're starting to go into the black. You're starting to actually bring in industry, onshoring industry, bringing in more revenue, bringing in saving money, bringing in more money. You're talking about balancing, getting to a point where eventually you could even have a balanced budget if we continue on this path. So it doesn't happen overnight. It's like when you start going to the gym and you're an adult and you understand there's going to be some pain in the very beginning, and it, sucks maybe to not eat that burrito or that pizza, and to go to the gym, at 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning before you go to work or after work. And when you start going, you're going to be sore and all that. All that's adult stuff. We all know that. We got to put in the work in order to make the money and all those sorts of things as adults. These are adult moves to restructure, reformat the global economy. And by doing so, in hemispheric defense, and by doing so, you have a whole geopolitical win for the United States. Now, why am I talking about that? Well, all that plays into the economy, housing economy, all obviously. Same goes for the Fed. With a new Fed chairman, you're going to see accountability. You're going to see restructuring of the Fed. You're going to see better spending. You're going to see a difference in balance sheets. You're going to see a difference in messaging, which will affect the markets in a positive way. You're going to see different ways of collecting data, real-time data, not old, outdated data, rear view mirror that doesn't make any difference in today's world for people. We don't care about what was going on. I mean, we can look at it as where we've come from, sure, but what happened a year, 2 years ago or whatever we can learn from that stupidity that happened back then, and all the spending that was done, and all the wasted money, and the things that Powell did, and the last administration did, that created the worst inflation that we've seen ever. If not this, at least the second worst inflation that we've ever seen. Some will argue the '80s, when you kind of do apples to apples, some of the things in the '80s were worse. Some of the things now were worse during these last 5 years or so. So anyway, without getting into the weeds of that, you're going to see when this conflict's over, oil's going to drop, which means all energy, all of your petroleum products, all that stuff, your fertilizer, your diesel, your shipping, all that's going to go down. Inflation will drop like a rock. Gas prices will drop like a rock. You're going to see the 10-year treasury drop. You're going to see mortgage rates drop, along with the messaging, and taking into better consideration the real time data and the models that you're using, and the getting rid of the antiquated systems of owner's equivalent rent, which makes up a third, which I'll show you here in a minute, of the inflation rate that we have. Owner's equivalent rent, which is your shelter cost, which makes up a third of your inflation metric. And when this all takes place, it's all, the stage has been set. It's all going to slam down very quickly, and you're going to see these interest rates drop. And yes, after we had the economy, screwed by high inflation, and then we got to raise the rates on top of that. So businesses and the common person, has trouble buying a house, has trouble buying anything. Businesses have been struggling, in order to do anything, because they have to borrow capital, in order to grow, in order to, produce more things, and hire more people, and give pay raises, and those sorts of things. That's all just the way it works. Okay. So when this conflict is over, all that's going to go to the good, to the good. And they can't keep losing $500 million a day forever in Iran. They're going to have to make a deal. Whether or not they hold to it is a whole nother story. Quite frankly, I want it over sooner rather than later. But hey, it'll be great if we could just seize the island, as far as I'm concerned, and make a deal, to take that over, and basically use that energy for the people of Iran, and make some trade deals and all that. But we'll see how it all plays out. But it has to uh, come to an end for this all to come down, and it will, because now you see more and more along. Now that China is going to be going, you'll start seeing some of these European countries agree really quick, because they've been in China's pocket, along with a lot of these politicians. Okay, here in the U.S. and in Europe, in the UK. So you're going to see a big change there. Okay. So, anyways, I just wanted to get into all that first, because the Fed messaging that's going to be coming out is going to be so much better. It's going to be giving so much better data, so much better messaging, more realistic on where we are today with today's technology, in order to gather the data and the real-time data. Okay. You'll also even probably see more of a range given for where the inflation rate should be. You'll also see some changes made to how things are gauged with unemployment and job starts. All this, because those are the two big things with the Fed, is full employment and the inflation rate. So that all affects mortgage rates, the Fed's fund rate, but indirectly it affects the bond market, and and then it'll affect mortgage rates, 30-year mortgage rate. So it will be something that will take shape very quickly here. Just give it another few weeks. You will see. I think, now at this point, it's perfect timing, the way everything has been laid out, the moves that this administration has made with Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, China. It will all come into place. That new Fed chair. Yeah. So U.S. payrolls, let's get right into this. U.S. payrolls jumped more than expected, but the report had several red flags for the economy. Um, Non-farm payrolls rose by seasonally adjusted 115,000 in April, down from 185,000 created in the usually strong March, but better than the 55,000 that was forecasted. Again, we look at these jobs numbers, um, because we want to understand what the Fed's looking at, right? And what may happen with the Fed rate, what may happen with the bond market. Then that in turn affects the 30-year mortgage rate, which obviously will affect the housing market. Um, and the housing market just touches so many sectors. It's not just somebody going out and buying a home. It's the banking industry. It's places like Home Depot, furniture stores. Everything there is into building and buying and living in a home, right? So the unemployment rate held at 4.3%, further proof that the labor market has reached a point where only modest job creation is needed to keep the jobless level steady. That's good news for the market, or for the jobs market. Now, for lowering interest rates, again, we may see some different metrics here, but right now, this is good news for the jobs market, not so much for a super low rate on mortgages. But average hourly earnings came in lower than expected, increasing 0.2% for the month and 3.6 on an annual basis, compared with the respective estimate of 0.3% and 3.8%. Following recent trends, healthcare led at 37,000, which is been pretty typical, except for the nurses strike that they had a few weeks back. And then, though multiple other sectors also saw gains. Okay, so uh, we can see that it's a pretty stable jobs market from this standpoint. We'll keep an eye on that. Now, for inflation, wholesale inflation jumped 6% in April on an annual basis, biggest increase since 2022. The producer price index rose a seasonal adjusted 1.4% for the month, much higher than the 0.5% Dow Jones consensus forecast, and the upwardly revised 0.7% March increase. Energy was at the root, of course, because of what's going on in Iran, tied in with the global markets, screwing everybody over for that one area, was at the root of the unexpectedly high gain in producer prices through, though there was evidence that the price pain is extended beyond the gas pump. Okay. Because obviously energy goes into all sectors, petroleum products, all those sorts of things. The service index accelerated 1.2%, the biggest gain since March of 2022. Two-thirds of the move was attributed to a 2.7% gain in trade services, a sign that tariff costs could be starting to have a larger impact on prices. Okay. So um, that's what's being said for the tariffs. But again, you're with the trade thing, that's going to be all worked out. It's going to take a little bit longer, but it's all going to be worked out because of the stupid Supreme Court ruling on that, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's like when other presidents have done things, it's been fine, but when President Trump does it, it's different, I guess. But wholesale prices in April posted their highest annual increase in more than 3 years, signaling more uh, nettlesome inflation as pipeline costs intensify. All right. So, again, a lot of this centered around energy. This will all be taken care of. We look at the inflation rate. CPI 3.8 annual exceeds expectation. Core 2.8 annual, running above the Federal Reserve 2%. New Zealand, some guy in New Zealand that came up with that 2% goal. Again, I think it should be, and a lot of economists agree. I think you'll see that with Kevin Warsh, that it should be more of a range. And actually, it should be more like a 2.5 maybe to 3.5%, something like that. So we'll see how that all turns out. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised in that, though. Energy costs, energy prices jump 3.8%. So that's what we're kind of looking at there. Now, here's what is going on with the shelter costs. I wanted to show you this since we are talking about it earlier. The CPI and the PCE, you can see how the last 5 years, how this kind of works out. And over the last 3 years, okay, you can see that it started coming down and it's been going down pretty much ever since. And we see the consumer CPI has gone up just a little bit, but the PCE is holding steady because it's some different metrics in there that they look at. But anyway, you can see how the shelter costs, that makes up a third. That makes up a third of all inflation. Okay, a third. So once you have somebody in there that's competent, like Kevin Warsh, that knows this, this will weigh much heavier in the messaging. Along with the Iran conflict being over, uh, you know, I'm thinking it's probably going to be over before the next Fed meeting. Just watch. If not, it'll be over with before the next one for sure. Pending home sales hit high. That's just my opinion. Allegedly, in my opinion. Okay. Pending home sales hit highest level in nearly 4 years. We talked about this last time. Pending home sales are up. So we see that new home sales, which is kind of a separate market from resale, really, because there are brand new homes. It is fresh, true new inventory, and they can not be emotional, so they'll lower prices. Okay, so that's what they've done to sell inventory. So along with this conflict and a little bit higher rates than we had hoped for this year because of the conflict, which again will shift. There hasn't been as much building as maybe we would have liked to see, and construction jobs and things like that. Although that construction jobs actually have gone up the last couple months, so that's a good sign. But I think that we'll see that change very quickly once all this stuff drops off. Crude oil, looking at that right now, obviously we can see where we've kind of come from since this whole thing started. Right now, today it ended at 105 a barrel, 105.50 a barrel. Okay. So obviously we want that closer to the normal, which is right around that 60 level, between 60 and 70 is kind of more normal. All right. So we'll get back there really soon, really quick. The 10-year treasury, which is doing a slow dance always with the 30-year mortgage rate across the country, is at it ended today at 4.59%. So typically there would be a split between that and up from there about 1.6 to 1.8 would be a normal range. Right now, the average 30-year fixed across the country is at 6.65. So we can see that's a little higher than what we would normally like to see in the normal range. But if you did not have the Fannie and Freddie basically purchasing the $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities like they did, you would see a much different story this year. So they did that as a backdrop. Notice how everything was laid out in order before the Venezuela thing, before the Iran thing. This is all planned out, guys. Okay, taking back the Panama Canal. It's all planned out. Okay, the Iran thing, the Venezuela thing, the Cuba thing that's going to be next, and that'll be like take 5 minutes. That's going to be a nothing. But 6.65%. So if this was a year ago, it would have been a much different story. That rate would have been over 7%. If it was 2 years ago, it would have been even higher in the high sevens. So that spread between the 10-year treasury and the 30-year mortgage is a big deal. And if we look at where we are with our local mortgage, this is from May 4th, basically about the same rate though. 30 years is going to be 5.6 from our mortgage broker, Andrew Fisher at Semper Home Loans, FHA 5.2, VA 5.2. Guys, we also have a grant. We have a bunch of down payment assistance programs you can get involved in for first-time home buyers or anybody. There's a grant for anybody who's buying a home. I think you can't make more than, what is it, 86 or $89,000 a year. But even if you're VA and you get 0% down anyway, you can take this 10 grand and you can put it towards buying down your mortgage rate, closing costs, things like that. So something to reach out to us about so we can get you fixed up with that. We have 5-year ARMs, also conventional, starting at 5.25%, FHA 4.75, and VA 4.75. So you're not going to do much better than that, guys. And you can even get a free appraisal thrown in there if you're working with us. So let us know. We'll go over all that with you. One of the big stories right now is we had a drop in new listings. Now it just started to come back up a little bit here, but this drop off in new listings for the year, we could see it actually go net negative on the new listings inventory coming online. So it's right around 80,000 at the last mark. But we're going to see where this goes. I think we're actually going to start going to the negative. Now, luckily, we have enough backdrop of inventory, but we're seeing that this is a big story right now, and we'll see how far that goes. But luckily, we already had a backdrop to some of that. The mortgage application data, this gives us a window in the next 30 to 90 days. It's a trend line we can watch, but these people are going out and they're getting approved for a home loan. So what that tells us is next 30 to 90 days, it's up year over year by 21%. We can see people are out there, more people are out there than last year and the year before. That's a good sign, right? People are getting out there, and rates overall are still lower than they were the last couple of years. So that's always good. We want to get back to where we were before this conflict and even lower, but at least we're trending overall better. National single family home inventory comes in at 700 and where'd that go? Just had it. Oh, come on. This thing is very jumpy. 762,000 right in there. And then we talked about the jobless claims already. New listings, again, going right into basically flat. Home price reductions, we can see on the home price reductions compared to some of the other years where we are right now. Why is this not? Okay, there we go. Okay, we're right in line with last year, right around that 36% mark. And pending home sales are up a little bit, not as high as we would have been in 2024. So, but pending home sales are still on the rise. It's gone a little bit flat just recently, but we'll keep an eye on that, of course. And then your spreads, this is the big news right here. But remember, going back to this, pending home sales, we have this mortgage application data still staying strong over the last couple of years. So we're not done yet when it comes to the spring market, but right around now, we'll get into it in just 1 second here, but we're seeing like pretty much a seller's market right at the very moment. Doesn't mean that can't change after the busy season, but 30-year versus the 10 years treasury is at 1.96%. So that's the difference between the 10-year and 30-year. All right. So that's the big story there. Now here is where'd it go? Here we go. Okay. Here's the story for the local area, for the greater Phoenix area. 75 days closed on market. We have a 3.3 month supply. Now, general rule is 2.5 to 3% for our area. Definitely a seller's market. Just recently, this was over 4 months supply. So this tells us that we're heading into, if not already into, a kind of a going towards a seller's market. All right. Your area, your neighborhood could be different. So we would have to look at that and look at your contract ratios to active. But absorption rate is at 29.54%. That's pretty good. Average list price 781, average sales price 610. List to sales price ratio, sellers are giving up about 2.75%. Okay. Which is pretty normal. Active, we're up just a hair at 0.4%. Okay, but that's definitely something that I want to talk about more here in just a second. Pending is 0.2%. Closed units are down 10.4% week over week. Okay. Now, if we look at the new listings, we're actually 2,400 is what we want to see every week. So right now we are at 2,474. So that's good. We're up over where we were the week before by about 350 homes or 340 homes. And we're up where we were last year. Okay. By about 130. Okay. The other thing is short sales, foreclosures, things like that. Pretty much a non-issue, a nothing burger. Okay, as far as that goes, that's kind of normal market. Uh, for the closed, I'm sorry, for the under contracts or pendings, or under contract taken back up, or under contract contingent on the sale of a home, we like to see about 5,500 a week. Right now we're at 4,908. Okay. But remember, we've got those mortgage applications still going up. All right. So we'll see how that plays out. The um, month supply, normally rule of thumb, 2.5 to 3 month supply is going to be a seller's market. Okay. And kind of the sweet spot for things just to kind of keep moving. We're at 3.38 right now, a month supply. Last week we were at 3.4. The same week last year we were at 3.7, and the week or the year before that we were at 3.2. Okay, so uh, we are not as high as we were last year, 3.3 to 3.7, but we'll see how that goes because we're seeing kind of a drop off in new listings. Okay. But we saw an increase in pending sales. So let's just see where we end up there. We're still not as high as we want to be, but we had more pending sales than we did the week before. And we had about 500 more than we did the year before. So, some of these are going to get closed out and then they'll start filtering into these numbers. Okay. And really, some of these numbers are going to be like from the tail end of last month. So just keep that in mind. List of sales price ratio again, rule of thumb 97.8. We're at 97.26. So pretty close to normal. 70 days as far as the month supply. I'm sorry, for days on market, 70 days is kind of a rule of thumb. So we're right now we're at 75. So we're getting down there. It's definitely been dropping. We were at 78 the week before, 83 year over year, 83 um, uh, days of supply. Okay. So and the year before that in 2024 we're at 81. So we're lower now as far as days on market. Okay. So those are good trend lines. Those are definitely good trend lines. So we'll keep an eye on that. If you want more information about your area, I know we are definitely up about 4% on closed units year over year. Average sales price is up about 3% year over year for the greater Phoenix area. And prices on total volume are up for the year. So those are good signs. Total volume's up 7%. Closed units are up 3.9%. Average, like I said, average sales price is up 3.04%. So all good indicators there. This is the total inventory of all property types right now in the greater Phoenix area, 26,618. Um, and that actually is kind of just outside of the area too. Um, but if you take single family homes, well, you know what? This is got coming soon. I apologize. Let's just take it from there. 26,044, 26,044. Okay. Just single family residents, we have 19,506. Now, if we look at the Cromford report, they're saying, this is their algorithm. They're saying we're at 82.3, 100 being a balanced market, 90 to 110 is kind of a balanced range. Below 90 is a buyer's market. They're still calling this a buyer's market. I just think that this number should register higher at this point with the numbers we just pulled off. Supply index, they have it at 107. That's a little bit higher than that 100 mark, and demand is down about 12 points there. So again, I don't totally agree because they don't just take those numbers in, they take kind of an algorithm with this. And I I really think that this number should be higher on the index, but they do their thing. Now, looking at the contract ratios, if we just take in Maricopa County here, right now, for what's active and what's actually under contract that's active, we are in a warm range at 38.3 contract ratio. This kind of gives us more in the now, right now, what's happening with the actives and under contracts. And then if we look at the heat map of what's going on, again, most of this is warm. And then you have areas of Chandler, Tempe, a little bit of Phoenix, in the northern part of Phoenix, Glendale North, Phoenix right here in the middle, just west of the I-17, and then Phoenix 85033. Okay, so everything else is pretty much warm. There are a few cold spots here, kind of right in the middle of the city of Phoenix and Scottsdale, and then up in Peoria 85345. That one's a little bit on the colder side, along with Glendale 85307. So anyway, guys, that's all I have for you right now. Definitely a brisk market. If you have any questions at all and you want to know more about what your home's worth, a lot of people just want to know, hey, what actually would it cost? But I don't want to be pressured into anything. But what would it look like to move? How would that work? How am I going to, be able to move, find another place? How is that going to break down on the cost, and what am I going to walk away with? All those sorts of things. So we'd love to be able to come to your home, go over all that with you. Won't take that long. I'll bring you to net sheets, kind of lay it all out, what it would look like to sell your home, how that works, what we would do to get your home sold. We'll try to tell you who the buyer is going to be, the makeup of the buyer pool for your type of property in your area, and a pricing strategy where we can look at 3 different pricing strategies that'll work, and then we can talk about logistics and your timing on that, whether it be now or a year or two down the road, whatever. But it's good to kind of have an idea. And then we can keep you updated. If it's not going to be immediately, we can keep you updated on prices in the area. But at least we've seen the property. We know the updates you've done. If there's anything else you do to the property, then we can kind of figure that into the equation. And then go from there. Buyers, if you're thinking about buying a property, again, feel free to reach out. Our mortgage broker, Andrew Fisher over Simplify Home Loans, will take good care of you as far as your loan costs are concerned. Save you tons of money there. We can help you get a free appraisal when we get you all set up, and then sit down and do a buyer consultation with you, what it looks like to get you through the home buying process, and go through with that. If you're selling and buying, same thing. We'll go through the whole process with you, what it would look like, break down the numbers so it makes sense, and you can figure out your budget, your timing, and then we go from there. So guys, that's all I got for you. We'll see you next time. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.